blog post on a Tuesday of all days. Dev Insights Renegades Weapon Tuning Preview. Hello, everyone. Today, we're going to kick things off with the first of 3 articles detailing changes coming to the game sandbox and Renegades. Today, we've got some general global updates to discuss, and then we'll dive into everything we're doing for weapons in terms of the ammo system, archetypes, balance, exotic weapons, and perks. The next 2 Dev Insight articles on Renegades will cover armor changes and then ability changes. Good. Global updates, HUD buff priority update. Ooh. Most of the character HUD buffs, the buffs that appear against the left side of the screen, have received priority iteration. It is now much less likely that a player with lots of buffs will have an important buff hidden by a less important one. Get to the back of the line, Void Breach cooldown. Thank God. There's just so much like small little feedbacks there on buff cooldowns that I care nothing about. I want, the things that are priority to be the things I look at. Artifacts new gear bonus. A new gear bonus no longer scales with gear tier. Bonus weapon damage for new gear weapons is now 5%. Bonus incoming damage reduction for equipped new gear armor goes up to 10%, 2% per equipped piece. Again, does it scale with gear tier? So all gear tier. All exotics now count as new gear. Remove the featured exotic section in collections as they are now redundant. Thank you. I can now use everything. All right, stasis freeze. We've updated how frozen targets take increased or decreased damage from weapons based on their ammo type and fixed a handful of outliers that were doing less damage than intended. So increase Ariana's Vow and Leviathan's Breath bonus damage to frozen targets from 5 to 10%, matching other special and heavy weapons. Fixed an issue where Forerunner, Micro Missile, Pulse Rifles, and New Mount Pace did not deal any increased damage to frozen targets. Fighting Lion and Alanthanium, though primary ammo weapons, will still get the 10% damage bonus to frozen targets. That's why you've seen the builds, stasis builds, utilizing things like Fighting Lion. So for that reason, for the 10% bonus damage. All right, Combat Flare socket. Updated Combat Flare to be reordered under Weapon Cosmetics, returning the shader to its left side. Sorry for breaking muscle memory. Okay. Disorient. All the following now uses a new universal disorient setup in the same way as we handle subclass verbs. This will ensure disorient effects are consistent and predictable across all gameplay items that use it, and opens up to potentially do more with it in the future. Overall, it will still function as expected. Combatants cover their eyes and won't shoot back, while players' screens will turn bright while their HUD is removed. Some VFX as the victim in the PvP environments might appear slightly different on a case-by-case basis. However, these differences should be minor. Okay. This will apply to shield disorient, flash counter, bewildering burst, photo inhibition, disorienting grenades, concussion, concussive, reactive, Gemini gesture. Okay. Additional notes: shield disorient and photo inhibition no longer have a damage impulse. This damage impulse did roughly 1 damage and was using content from another gameplay item. To avoid potential issues, we have removed this. Now, there are exceptions. Helm of Saint 14 will be exempt from this update, leaving it as it will have no effect on its gameplay, but under the hood, it won't be considered disorient in the same way as everything else listed here will be. We are planning on giving this exotic further attention in a future release. Touch of Malice's Darkness Bolt versus players is exempt from this update and will continue to be its own bespoke debuff with a unique screen effect against combatants. This will continue to arc blind as normal. All right, the main thing of this is just like, it's setting the groundwork for future updates. All right, ammo system. In PvE, we wanted to focus on 3 main things: giving support and objective players more ways to earn ammo that don't rely on getting kills directly, fixing some bugs with specific weapons that were making it harder to earn ammo, and increasing a handful of exotic weapons and weapon archetypes usability by shifting their ammo economies. Alongside this, we also needed to bring down a handful of performance outliers by a small amount. So, reintroduce ammo scout mods on the helmets, which will spawn an ammo brick for your allies whenever you fill your corresponding meter. The amount of ammo in the brick is dependent on the number of scout mods you have equipped. Ability assists will now generate a small amount of ammo meter progress, granting buffs, radiant, overshield, etc. to allies. Will grant a small amount of ammo meter progress when they land final blows while buffed. Nice. Fix an issue where glade projectile kills were not getting correctly scaled by the ammo generation stat. Fix an issue where machine guns and Lord of Wolves were getting less ammo than intended from scavenger mods. Now increase the following exotic weapons ammo per brick amounts: Truth, Heir Apparent, Colony, Prospector, Darcy, Salvation Script. Now increase the following weapons subfamily ammo per brick amounts: Heavy Burst Slug Shotguns, Rapid Fire Shotguns. Okay. Reduce the following weapon subfamily ammo per enhanced brick amounts: Micro Missile Pulse Rifles. Pull back on that, yeah. We're reducing a few weapons perk ammo generation bonuses. These used to provide such large numerical bonuses because inventory stat values needed to pass certain thresholds to have an effect. But now that every point of ammo generation matters, their buffs are outsized compared to other options for investments. So Air Trigger, reduce base trait ammo generation increase to 20 from 30. Reduce enhanced trait ammo generation to 30 from 40. Interesting. Field Prep, reduce base trait ammo generation to 20 from 30. Reduce enhanced from 30 to 40. Envious Arsenal, reduce enhanced traits, increase ammo generation to 10 from 20. So a pullback on these perks, essentially. Now in the Crucible, after the most recent changes to special ammo generation, we've seen special weapon usage rise back up a fair amount while remaining more constrained than it has been in most other ammo systems. The bulk of our work moving forward will now be to tune special weapons themselves, allowing the limited uptime weapons to better function as a limited power spike. We'll be buffing several special weapons to be discussed below and shifting a few outliers down a bit. But we also wanted to make a quality of life change to the special ammo bricks themselves to make it a little easier to collect a brick that you've created. So increase the lifetime of dropped ammo bricks in Crucible from 30 seconds to now 60 seconds. Ammo bricks stay on the ground after you die, or do they go away? Like if you die, can you come back and pick them up inside of Crucible? They stay. I will say this, guys, ammo generation, like for rank, like even the build that I'm using today, I'm rocking double special. And with even like a limited ammo generation, you can run around double special and a heavy and you'll have plenty of ammo. You know what I mean? So, and you tack on like special finisher, you good. All right, weapon archetypes, sidearms. While semi-auto sidearms are very strong in the hands of a controller player, on mouse and keyboard, they can struggle due to their barrel moving upwards and covering the target for an extended duration. We've done some custom tuning to a handful of sidearms to experiment with a less obtrusive recoil animation. We'll be rolling it out gradually to help provide more options for sidearm gameplay on mouse and keyboard outside of just the heavy bursts. Yeah, the heavy bursts are by far the best. Well, for mouse and keyboard. General, alter the firing animation for some long-barreled sidearms to hide the reticle for a reduced duration. Heliocentric, Frosted Decline, Compact Defender, and a handful of older sidearms with silencers with extended barrels as part of their physical model. I'm sure some of you guys have used these sidearms and, you see the reticle, like the jump and the recoil. It does. It quite literally will cover the target. Submachine guns. Inverse to the issue with sidearms we mentioned above, we are seeing many controller players struggle to use SMGs outside of very close range due to difficulty maintaining accuracy throughout the engagement. We've also been slowly increasing the range SMGs can operate in to give them some breathing room versus sidearms and stretch out hand cannons. And we'll be continuing that process with the popular lightweight subfamily. So general, increase stability by 10% on controller. That needed to happen. I will say mouse and keyboard SMG usage is so much easier to use there than controllers. Now lightweights in particular, increase ADS damage, fall off scalar from 1.4 to 1.45. Okay. We'll do pre and post. Pulse rifles. Rapid fire pulse rifles are lagging the other more popular pulse rifle subfamilies in terms of both PvP and PvE effectiveness. So we have increased their base damage slightly to grant them easier access to both a more forgiving base time to kill and time to kill shifts with smaller damage boosts. So rapid fires increase base damage from 15 to 15.5, increase crit damage from 27.75 to 27.9. Now I know you're looking at these values and you're like, that doesn't seem like much. It doesn't need much. It does not need much, guys. Damn, we're gonna have to break out scalar potential in some of our other rapid fires, man. All right, bows. Bows needed just a little bit of help in PvE and PvP, so we have rescaled their draw time curves to be slightly faster and more forgiving across the board. Lightweight bows will retain their same minimum draw time, but their base value and the value when increased by a perk have been reduced. Combat bows have had their draw times drop slightly across the entire curve. So recurve bows, rescale draw time to be slightly faster at base and less punishing, so 580 to 567 on base. High tension string from 620 to 600. Compound bows, rescale draw time to be slightly faster and higher stat values and less punishing if increased. So base draw 684 to 667. High tension 720 to 700s. Elastic string 612 to 600. Wow. I'm going to hang on to a few bows. All right, fusion rifles. With the increased special ammo gains in the Crucible, fusion rifles have been signaled out by the community as being problematic with higher uptime. Rescaling the charge time will provide a better rebalance between subfamilies, and the reduction to DPS from the slightly lower charge times is more than offset by the increase to PV damage for the adaptive precision and high impact frames. In addition, this makes it less punishing to increase your charge time and less beneficial to reduce it, which will help to provide better variety in terms of perk selection among fusion rifles. So rescaled fusion rifle charge time, look at that. Rapid fires 500 to 533, adaptive 600 to 667, precision 780 to 800, 960 to 967. So not much on the high impacts. Interesting. Now, precision, adaptives, and aggressives increase the damage, though, inside of PvE from 2.5 to 6.7 in its damage scalar. High impact increased PvE bonus damage scalar from 6.7 to 15%. Damn. Okay. They're still ass to me, but all right. I'll break them out. I've got a Glacial with Reservoir Burst, a few others. So I would say adapters here haven't moved much. Shotguns. Shotguns, while prevalent in Crucible, have almost all their usage focused on the precision pellet frame and have fallen behind other options of PvE. We have buffed all pellet shotgun frames damage at PvE by varying degrees. And we've also buffed the damage against players for the aggressive and lightweight frame shotguns. So rapid fires added a 2.5% PvE bonus damage scalar, increased ammo per brick in PvE from 3 to 4 at base and 6 to 8 in hands. And lightweights increased damage per pellet from 22 to 23. Oof. Increased PvE bonus damage from 12.5 to 15%. Nice. Precisions increased PvE bonus damage from 12.5 to 15%. Aggressives increased damage per pellet from 26.7 to 28. Increased PvE bonus damage from 12.5 to 20%. Oof. All right. So we're getting a little bit of a reversal here. At one time, I don't know if y'all remember, lightweight shotguns were the meta. Lightweights and aggressives both. Those were the meta archetypes. And then we had the change there to our pellet spreads where it was static, and precisions with its oval pellet spread became the meta. But there might be a reversal here. We might be returning back to form. All right, slug shotguns. Pinpoint slug shotguns like rapid fire fusion rifles have become a bit too effective in higher skill Crucible lobbies, in large part due to their forgiving damage profile and substantial aim assist cones. As such, we've reduced their aim assist cones slightly and dropped their base damage versus players to make sure they retain the same lethal kill ranges they currently have with critical hits. We've increased their ADS damage fall off range by a small amount. We also took this opportunity to correct a bug where Assault Mag increased the RPM of rapid fire slug shotguns by an enormous amount. Yeah, it did. But we kept it a little spicier than normal at plus 20 rounds per minute and buffed their PvE damage bonus a bit too. We've also further buffed heavy burst slug range to better differentiate them from the other slug shotgun subfamilies. So general, reduce aim assist cone size by 1% at the low end of the stat and 3% at the high end of the stats. Corrected the RPM displays in game to be more accurate. This does not affect gameplay. It is purely visual. All right, so shouldn't be as free with slugs. We'll see. 1% low, 3% at the high end. We'll have to just see. It's one of those things. It's very subjective. Rapid fire slugs increase PvE bonus damage from 8.3 to 11%. Fix an issue where Assault Mag would increase RPM by 50. Okay. Pinpoint slugs increase damage against players by 6%. Increase ADS damage fall off scalar from 1.2 to 1.25. And then heavy burst slugs increase ADS damage fall off scalar from 1.2 to 1.3. Increase ammo per brick in PvE from 3 to 6 and 6 to 12 in hands. All right. So pull back inside of PvP for slugs. See how it plays out. And a nerf there to Assault Mag, which we felt like that was going to come. It wasn't supposed to be up in our RPMs that much. All right, snipers. Snipers have seen their effectiveness increase since we started granting them 2 shots from dropped bricks in PvP. But the amount of flinch they take from other players still feels too jarring. We have further reduced the flinch they take from players, and while this is still more flinch than they took before we made the original change, we believe this will strike more of a balance between allowing players to counter a hard scope sniper and not making your weapon feel like it's being kicked when you take damage. So reduce flinch received from players by 40%. Damn. Let me just say snipers are already, I don't think people have really caught on right now, but with the ammo changes, Cloud Strike has been making a return, man. And with this right here, I think it might be coming back full force. All right, here's the big one. Rocket Pulse Rifles. Debuting with Edge of Fate, this new weapon type has become near ubiquitous with the kinetic slots. In reviewing our data, players feel almost pressured to run this weapon to fit the meta due to its ammo, uptime, strong damage profile, and ease of use. Yeah, it works. With Mint Retrograde being in the kinetic slot around 45% of the time. Oh my God. Damn, boys, we couldn't have like unequipped that shit just a little bit. You know what I mean? We've really pumped the numbers on this. We feel this is a bit unhealthy and too dominant. Therefore, we're going to let it keep its power on the battlefield, but rein in the ammo economy by reducing reserves and the amount of ammo acquired per enhanced brick slightly. With buffs to other weapon types like shotguns, changes to a suite of exotics, and new weapons to chase with novel gameplay and renegades, we feel this makes for a more diverse selection of loadouts and power fantasies. For players who really favor Mint Retrograde or want to try their hands with the new Rocket, Pulse, and Renegades, buildcraft options are expanded slightly for ammo generation with scouts returning and more assist play contributing, meaning ammo uptime can be solved for. We don't make this change lightly, and we'll be keeping a close eye on reception as folks analyze the overall meta shakeup and theory craft what builds they want to construct. So So reduce the base reserve ammo for rocket pulse rifles from 18 to 14. Reduce enhanced ammo per brick in PvE, as mentioned in the ammo section, from 6 to 5 enhanced. I'm gonna be honest, I was expecting something worse. You know what I mean? Like, that is a nerf to its ammo for sure, and we're gonna feel it, especially in like DPS phases. But I was expecting something worse because it puts out a lot of damage. And most other content outside of DPS, like, I think I can work with this. You know what I mean? I was expecting they were gonna be like, we're fucking cutting its damage down 50%. All right, swords. With the slash thing behind us, we took a look at some underlying weirdness that has persisted in swords since their inception way back in the Taken King. Now, swords when empty should perform more like swinging an empty hilt than swinging your fists. Oh, okay. So that we can't do, you know, or we were just chopping up bosses. Yeah. So reduce empty sword swinging damage. Empty sword swings are no longer scaled by melee buffs, which is an issue where Ascension was activating sword perks. Oh, interesting. All right, now let's get to the exotic section. Ace of Spades. Ace has long been potent in the Crucible, but has been overshadowed by many things in PvE in today's Destiny. We made some buffs to Memento Mori and Ace's own version of Firefly to help it compete against the likes of Sunshot and its kin. It's what Cade would have wanted. Increased extra PvE damage bonus of Memento Mori from 18 to 30%. Hot damn. Ace of Spades Firefly. Increased maximum damage to PvE from 65 to 100. Oh my lord. Oh, that's PvE. Okay. I was going to say, that PvP? Increased minimum damage to PvE from 0 to 20. Increased area effect size from 6 meters to 7.5 meters. Increased damage fallout start from 30% of area effect size to 50%. Will keep full damage for more distance. Big buffs, man. Big buffs. That's nice. I love Ace, man. Ace has always been good. Ace, it's always been good. But now it's just better. It's just better. All right, Hawkmoon. Hawkmoon promises big rewards for perfect accuracy, but this has not felt very worthwhile in PvE specifically. We've added a damage bonus gained per stack of paracausal charge to further reward pacing your shots and remaining accurate even in PvE. This also allows you to go for final blows instead of precision hits if you already have high stacks later in the mag. Now gets a PvE damage bonus per stack of paracausal charge. Maxes out at 70% at ×8. Does not include the final paracausal shots. Damn, brother. And Hawkmoon works with Lucky Pants now, right? Didn't they make the change? Everybody understand this? So as you're getting the stack, so say for instance, you're rocking Lucky Pants. As you're getting stacks, each stacks, you're also getting paracausal charges, which are also increasing your damage. So you're able to continually build. It's not just the last shot. That it's all going to stack together. That's beautiful, man. No, that is a wonderful change. All right, Osseous Trigger. We're having the Osseous Trigger Poison Burst cooldown and seeing where this lands. This is a weapon that could dominate the PvE meta, especially in conjunction with the necrotic grips. So we're being a bit cautious here, but we also don't want to leave longtime fans of this weapon feeling like it's been gutted. So reduce the cooldown of the Poison Burst on Osseous Trigger final blows from 4 seconds to 2. Say no more, Bungie. Say no more. If you're a Warlock, necrotic grips, Osseous Trigger, have fun next season. All right, Surah's Regime. Surah's Regime is a solid, versatile workhorse weapon with a storied history. In today's sandbox, however, it struggles to compete outside of its niche PvP following. We've updated it to fit a role within weapon-centric builds and give it a bit of quality of life on its mode swap. Can now be special reloaded at will to swap between spinning up and dual speed receiver behaviors. Added new hipfire reticle elements that correspond with each firing mode. Grants bonus special ammo progress with spun up kills while using spinning up. Grants bonus heavy weapon progress on dual speed receiver kills while ADS. So this last part's pretty cool. This though, that's amazing. So on the fly, you will be able to go between essentially its 600 round per minute variant, which can of course ramp up to 900, or you can be in its 360 variant, but you could swap on the fly. All right, Revision 0. We thought Revision 0 could use a little more spice, and adding some of the newer kinetic align effects seemed like the perfect tie-in. Hunter's Trace rounds now create a small damaging shockwave and exhaust targets on impact. Interesting. I wonder how much damage the shockwave's going to do. All right, Touch of Malice. Touch of Malice can be a strong weapon, but the healing part of the intrinsic perk, which is supposed to help offset the self-damage, was too niche and hard to activate. We made the healing more effective and easier to trigger in PvE, and you'll also heal every time you special reload, activate the Charge with Blind perk. So increase the amount of healing provided by the intrinsic perk, reduce the number of kills needed to trigger the healing in PvE, and activating Charge with Blight will now fire the healing impulse. All right, good. We'll have to see how much it heals. Collective Obligation. In the right build, Collective Obligation is potent, but asks quite a lot of the player. The current version requires you and your fire team to provide sources of volatile, weaken, and suppression for the weapon to leech from to get the most out of it, which isn't always practical or feasible with currently viable builds or available artifact perks. We've relaxed that requirement somewhat by adding a very slow rate of leeching debuffs on any damage dealt with the weapon. This can open this up to more prismatic or non-void builds and relaxes some of the need to deploy every debuff yourself on void-centric builds. So added a very slow rate of leeching effects off unaffected targets. Gives each effect an order of effectiveness with around a full mag of hits per debuff. So it goes volatile, weaken, suppression. Also charges the leech mode at the same rate. So I'll add a very slow rate of leeching effects off unaffected targets. Gives each effect an order of effectiveness with around a full mag. Okay, dude, that's very nice. So essentially, Collective Obligation is going to have its own self-contained loop to feed into itself. That's good. All right, Symmetry. Symmetry is an interesting weapon, but still feels like it's not quite worth the effort of its loop. With the introduction and popularization of Bolt Charge, particularly with Storm's Keep, this seemed a solid addition to the weapon, especially adding a new way to spin Bolt Charge via the weapon itself. Now builds Bolt Charge with one stack of Dynamic Charge in Alt Fire mode. Grants more stacks at times 10 Dynamic Charge. Now can spin Bolt Charge with one stack of Dynamic Charge in Alt Fire mode. Increases base reload stat by 20. Damn. Throw this on with Storm's Keep. That's nice. All right, Still Hunt. A Golden Gun inspired sniper rifle exotic that requires precision hits. Really ought to be one of the best damage options for hunters. Let's fix that. So buff Still Hunt's Golden Gun damage while using a Celestial Nighthawk by 40%. Allows Sniper's Meditation to buff Still Hunt's Golden Gun shots. All right, hunters, that's a big buff. That's a huge buff. Witherhoard. Witherhoard has been feeling a bit lackluster since the nerf to auto-loading holster, but prior to the nerfs, it was not problematic. Plus, aerodynamic grenade launchers can cover more of the battlefield a bit more easily. Rather than simply reverting that nerf, we thought we'd break the bank and let it shine as an iconic swap-focused weapon. So reduce silent alarm auto-load time from 3.5 seconds to 2. Damn. All right, some more shots out for Witherhoard. I'll take it. Duality. Duality is the best of both worlds style exotic. We still think it could be just a little better in terms of its hip fire effectiveness. So reduce hip fire spread by 6%. Chaperone. The Chaperone, like other slug shotguns, has become something of a menace in high-skill PvP lobbies. With its faster rate of fire, high damage, and generous aim assist, there weren't many downsides to using it compared to other special weapons. Conversely, despite several buffs, it continues to struggle in PvE. Changing it to use the rapid fire frame damage and rate of fire profiles will be a small nerf to ease of use in PvP, but a larger buff in PvE, so that it's overlapping the blanket buff, bringing it more in line with other options. So change Chaperone to use the rapid fire slug to frame damage and rate of fire profile. Very nice. Okay, we might actually live in a world where Chaperone is being used for DPS. All right, Ruinous Effigy. Ruinous Effigy has seen niche usage over time, but could still use a bit of attention. We've updated its catalyst to grant damage bonus to the weapon after any final blow or damage to a mini boss or higher target to help the weapon loop into its next orb or burn down priority targets. So catalyst now grants a 30% and 50% in PvP damage buff to the Trace Rifle when killing anything with the Transmutation Orb or damaging a mini boss champion with the Transmutation Orb. Okay, so you can throw that shit, slam that shit, and then you got a 30% buff. Izanagi's Burden. With the character stat rework and weapon-focused builds now being more of a supported playstyle, we've re-enabled the special reload on Izanagi's Burden to be able to benefit from the reload speed stat and similar effects. Get those Izzy swap builds back out of the vaults. Special reload once again scales with reload speed stat. Holy shit. That's it, man. That's all you have to do. Izzy's back. Izzy rocket combos or whatever else is back, dude. All right, Tessellation. This fusion rifle offers a variety of strong subclass energy options, but can feel sluggish to use due to the special reload. While we wanted to maintain the longer special reload time due to the power of the shot, we opted to reduce the friction of it in other ways while offering additional benefits on top of its existing ones to further encourage use with Transcendence. So property, undecidable. Final blows now also grant 2.5% light and dark Transcendence energy and grant bonus time to Transcendence while active. Fixed issue where Transcendence grenade chunk energy gains were not scaling based on the grenade stats. So property, irreducible. While Transcendence is active, special reload shots now do 25% more damage when combined with the Transcendence damage buff. Special reloading now reloads the mag from reserves, and you can now special reload while you have 0 ammo in the mag. Catalyst increase applied scorch stacks from 15 plus 5 to 17 plus 10. What the and a slow stack from 30 to 80. Subclass keyword application is now near immediate, though it still does not apply before the primary explosion. Miscellaneous updated the timing of the reload for tessellation and Yodin so that the ammo is added to the mag slightly sooner, properly lining up with the animation. Okay, actually good changes. There was no a wow factor with tessellation ever. So hopefully it's going to be good, man. The usage there with Transcendence and stuff, that's in some big buffs here. And then just this right here, man. That right here is massive with the catalyst. All right, Deathbringer. Deathbringer is potent and chaotic to wield. Sometimes a bit more than it is worth the effort. We've narrowed the spread on the secondary projectiles to make it a bit more predictable to hit a target directly under where you choose to deploy the clusters. So reduce the spread of the secondary cluster munitions after they are created. Good. Deathbringer does a lot of damage. It's just his ease of use, his ass. Nothing sucks. Nothing kills your damage more than shooting above a target and having, even if it's just like 2 or 3 orbs that drift off, that's damage you're losing there. Black Talon. Black Talon is strong in its own way, but struggles to keep up in today's build crafting world. We made a few changes in the past, allowing it to fit better in void-oriented builds, while also carving away some of its extreme ammo hunger, like we did with Warline 0 and Heart Shadow in 9.0. Heavy attacks now suppress on hit. If the target is already suppressed, it spreads to nearby targets. Catalyst on hit gives a 10% damage boost per void debuff on the target for 2 seconds. Reduce heavy attack cost to 3 ammo from 4. Added duelist trans trait. Increase max reserve ammo. Alright. Okay. On hit gives a 10% damage boost per void debuff on the target. You throw some weaken, you get some volatile in there, you got automatically suppress. That's 30%. That's not. Deterministic Chaos. Deterministic Chaos has a good ammo economy and decent total damage, but it needs to be reloaded frequently and lacks a distinct gameplay fantasy next to Thunderlord. So new effect, releasing the trigger after a hexadecimal projectile pulls 12 rounds in the magazine from reserves. Oh, so you'll just be able to blow your load. Okay. Worldline 0. With the changes in 9.0 patch, Worldline 0 faced a frustrating bug causing the Tesseract attack to deal much less damage than intended. We've remedied that with the following, as well as giving it a little extra love to make up for the missed damage during Season of Reclamation. So fiction issue, where Tesseract was only hitting 1 instance of damage instead of the usual 5. Jesus. Increase the damage instances via Tesseract from 5 to 7, 40% damage increase. Reduce time between these instances from 0.66 to 0.44 seconds. Fix an issue where chaining Tesseracts was inconsistent if the player had the Worldline 0 catalyst equipped. Reduce the costs of chained Tesseract blinks from 20% sword energy to 10% per. Damn, I didn't know it was doing that bad. Dude, at one time, Worldline 0 Tesseract, because you could do the double, you could chain the attacks back to back, you can melt champions. Ease of use was what was the issue with that. To remove that, but I guess in the process of that, it hit it with the nerf. Worldline 0. Oh, no, excuse me. Wolfsbane. With Wolfsbane pulled through time and into our hands, we are largely happy with how people have reacted to it, but it shipped a little under where we want it. While it should feel like a weapon that encourages you to reap from your foes, the juice at current doesn't feel worth the squeeze. So increase damage of light attacks by 8.5% closer to Lament or aggressive swords. Increase nano assault duration from 10 to 12 seconds, which makes the tornadoes feel a little more forgiving. Increase swarm NATO damage by 20%. Retune axe handles. Increase damage resistance on each handle by 5%. Good. Increase damage resistance linger time from 3 to 5 seconds. Good. Reduce internal cooldown on subroutine recursions extra nanites from 5 seconds to 2 seconds. And an adjusted damage increase when using on afflicted targets to ramp slightly quicker. All right. I don't know, but man, Bungie is buffing the hell out of some melee-based weapons. Here's the thing. Will we use these weapons over the lightsaber? I just hope the lightsaber's good, dude. That's it. I'm happy these weapons are getting buffed. I just hope the lightsaber is good. It's a damn lightsaber. It's got to be good. All right, perks. Rangefinder. Ever since Zoom was decoupled from damage falloff, Rangefinder has no longer fully lived up to its name. We wanted to give it some help to hone in as a range increasing perk. So now provides a +10 range while aiming down sights. Oh shit. That's pretty nice. That's pretty nice. What about the enhanced version? Rampage. Rampage is the original damage perk, but has fallen out of favor as more desirable perk options have been added. We want Rampage to remain a solid damage perk option that any player can pick up and find success with. And to achieve this, we've added some flexibility to the timer. Now loses only 1 stack of damage buff when the timer expires. Yes, this includes Huckleberry. God, dog it. And Huckleberry has the pre-nerfed, it's the only weapon that has the pre-nerfed Rampage damage stacks. That's fucking nice. So it decays. Versus just falls off. Box breathing. Let me see here. Box breathing has fallen behind in PvE and mostly only sees use in PvP with scout rifles because it would buff the precision scalar of the weapon. Different weapon types would see different damage increase values. We decided to retune how box breathing's damage buff is applied to simplify the setup, which in turn increases the value on most weapon types. So box breathing now provides a flat 40% buff to your next shot's precision damage for all existing weapon types and 30% for the new heavy ammo sniper. This works out to be a buff of around 10% for existing snipers and linear fusion rifles and a small nerf for scout rifles. Wait, hold on. Box breathing provides a flat 40% buff to your next shot's precision damage for all existing weapon types. 30%. Okay. And what is it now? I don't know off the top of my head. Shot swap. Shot swap fails to provide enough of a benefit feeling worth choosing over other swap focus perks. The swap charges could also feel clunky to read and manage. We wanted to address these concerns to help it compete with perks that have a similar focus while also maintaining a distinct use case for it. So the swap benefits are now more potent. New values are 0.7 ready speed multiplier, 0.65 enhanced, previously 0.75 to 0.7 enhanced, 0.7 stow speed multiplier, 0.65 enhanced, previously 0.9, 0.85. You now only lose one charge on stow. Previously you would lose one on stow and one on ready, effectively losing 2 every swap. As a result, the maximum number of charges that can be held has been reduced from 8 to 6. This is an effective increase, buffing 6 swaps at 6 charges instead of the previous 4 swaps at 8 charges. The hub buff no longer appears while stowed. To maintain parity between each other, the Sturm Catalyst has received some minor tweaks. Now loses a charge on stow, previously would lose 1 on ready. This should have no negative impact on the number of swaps this will benefit. The HUD buff now only appears while Sturm or Together Forever weapon is in hand. Will I use it? I don't know. Sleight of Hand. Sleight of Hand also struggles to hold its own against other swap-focused perks. We decided to give it some flexibility and allow the user to choose when they want to swap the weapon. We also discovered an issue where the buff could potentially not activate despite getting a kill, so we fixed this. So increase the duration of the buff from 7 seconds to 7.5 seconds enhanced, previously 8.5 seconds to 9 enhanced. You no longer need to swap to the weapon within 5 seconds of getting a kill. Instead, the buff timer will activate upon your next swap to the weapon, regardless of how long ago your last kill was. Added a timer to the HUD buff. Fix an issue where you could potentially lose newly gained stacks if you swap off the weapon while the buff was still active. Okay, that's good. This part's good. This part increased the buff duration of the buff from 7 seconds, 7.5 seconds. Previously was 8.59, so that's a nerf. But the ease of use is substantially increased. All right, Bray Legacy. When Bray Legacy was made for Vesper's Host, it was tuned particularly for the weapons it was on. At the time, these weapons all had dependable amounts of damage and assists they might be able to cause on each trigger pull. While with its expansion out to other weapons now, we've seen it dramatically overperform when paired with perks that break this exception. So we were tuning it accordingly for just the outliers. So increase gains for rocket launchers from 10% per rocket to 17%. No longer activates from explosions caused by perks or from Gallahorn micro missiles. Okay. Vice Stinger. Vice Stinger was newly added to shotguns and fusion rifles at the Edge of Fate, but didn't work properly with them. You're dang right. We fixed this. I also don't feel like it works well on SMGs too. Fixed an issue where the Vice Stinger origin trait wasn't working on Vice fusion rifles or shotguns. Bewildering Bursts. With the changes to Disorient listed above, we wanted to bring this perk in line with other Disorient options. Disorient duration increased from 0.5 to 1 second as players' enhanced duration increased from 0.7 to 1.25. Now, Shield Disorient, Photo Inhibition, Disorient Grenades, Concussion Grenades, since Disorient is now a verb, we can apply it more broadly than we could before with various bespoke effects. Fix an issue where these perks would not apply the Disorient effect to bosses. All right, that's all we have to share today, but much more is coming. We have Dev Insight articles dropping every week before Renegade launches on December 2nd, along with trailers and our weekly twists. So stay tuned to learn all about our next expansion. All right, guys, big changes. Big changes. I think they said we've got 2 more articles to go through from now until then. I think the buffs here far outweigh the nerfs, guys. And I know some of you are upset with like the ammo economy for Mint Retrograde, but I will take these buffs to exotics all day long, man. All day long. I think Osseous Trigger is going to really stand out. I think Hawkmoon's going to really stand out. Ace is pretty good. Touch of Malice is going to be really, it's easy of use. Symmetry is going to be good. Stillhunt's going to be good. Witherhoard's going to be, more ease of use. Izanagi Burden is going to be back. Desolation might be crazy. And then a number of these like melee base options too. That's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.